Welcome to the Psychology World podcast with me, Connor Whiteley, psychology student and international best-selling psychology author of over 30 psychology books, bringing you the latest psychology news, fascinating psychology topics and more each week. If you want to learn more, then please check out connorwhiteley.net/books. And don't forget to like and subscribe to the YouTube video or follow on your favourite podcast app. And here's the show. Hi there, everyone, and welcome to episode 220 of the Psychology World podcast with me, Con Whiteley. And today's podcast episode is on my graduation. And it's Saturday, the 22nd of July 2023, as I record this. So the reason I actually wanted to do today's podcast episode is because I graduated 2 days ago, and by the time that this podcast episode comes out, I actually would have graduated exactly 1 week ago. So I actually wanted to do a bit more of a personal podcast episode and sort of a psychology student life episode, just so one, you get to know a bit more about my actual experience of my graduation. Two, if you're a psychology student that hasn't graduated yet, you can sort of know what to expect and sort of like how it works, including some things to avoid at your graduation. Because one, some funny stuff happened to me. Two, I had some funny stories about what happened the few days before. And three, I just like podcast them. And as always, I always love to hear your thoughts and feelings on today's episode. So you can always email me, connorwhiteley@connorwhiteley.net. You can always leave a comment at the show notes at connorwhiteley.net/podcast. And you can always tweet me on Twitter at sci-fi-whiteley. I always love to hear from all you because it really helps make the podcast feel more like a conversation. And today's podcast episode has been sponsored by How Does University Work? So this was a book that was released a few weeks ago, and this is an absolutely brilliant sponsor for today's episode because this is a collection of really great, really interesting blog posts that which actually help you to understand how does university work. One, when you actually go into university. Two, where it actually gives you a lot of great tips about about how university works, and some tips and tricks if you're actually at university right now. And also, it gives you plenty of tips for your first and final year at university. So it's a really a fun book, really useful, and I really do recommend it. So that's How Does University Work? Available from all major ebook retailers, and you can get the paperback and hardback version from Amazon, your local bookstore, or local library if you request it. And you can get the ebook directly from me at payhip.com/Con So, whilst I'm buying books helps to support the creation of the podcast and the editing, my time is sponsored by my wonderful patrons. So it's always a massive thank you to my wonderful patrons, because your support shows that you like the show and you want it to continue. So if you wanted to become a patron and get early access to the blog posts and a whole bunch of other great benefits, then you can now become a patron of the show at patreon.com/the Psychology World podcast. So let's move on to the content part of today's episode. So we're moving on to the content part of today's episode. So we're going to be talking about my graduation, which happened on the 20th of July 2023 at Canterbury Cathedral at 2:30. So I really did want to talk about this because it was a lot of fun. I definitely felt like there's stuff that I want to reflect on, and it's really great to have a podcast audience that will probably be interested in this sort of stuff. So before I dive into it, I just want to mention the 5 topics that I'm actually going to be reflecting on and talking about. So the first thing I'm going to be talking about is my expectations before the day. Of course, I'm doing this podcast episode with the gift of hindsight. And then I want to talk about toilet planning because that was a great laugh that we had like at the house, and yeah, that was just a lot of fun. I also want to talk about how the day worked because that's more audience focused, and then I can give you some like tips about the reception, and then I want to talk about the ceremony itself because that's a lot of fun. Then I want to reflect on the fact that I'm a graduate and what that means for the future. So quite a lot of interesting stuff for me personally. Expectations before the day. So I have to admit, I did not actually know what to expect about my graduation because I sort of knew that beforehand there would be a reception and I didn't know what was going to happen at that reception. And equally, I had no idea what really happened at a graduation because they just don't really tell you about how well our graduation works because we had the information pack, so we knew the timings. So we had to be at this specific place to get the tickets, to get the gowns, to get the photos done, etc., etc. But the ins and outs we didn't really know though, so I was a little nervous about that. But to be honest, the whole graduation itself, I was not nervous about. Like, I was not nervous about getting my degree, even though I know quite a lot of other people were. Like, some people were really panicking and like other stuff. I think one person was actually almost like reduced to tears, like they were that sort of excited but really, really nervous. Thankfully, I didn't have that. But if you do feel that, that's completely normal. And I almost think that's a rite of passage. So I'm a bit gutted that I didn't quite get that like, rite of a passage. But the thing that I was nervous about was the reception. It was like I mentioned, I think it was on Monday's podcast episode, that because a bunch of my friends are doing Camp America, I actually was really concerned I wouldn't have anyone to talk to at the reception. But for anyone that doesn't know, the reception is sort of where you all meet beforehand or after your graduation. You all talk, mingle. There are speeches done by the academic staff. You can talk to your academic staff like for one last time. Like I spoke to some great ones. I talked to one of my clinical lecturers sort of like for the first time, but he sort of knew me because I kept popping up basically. And there was a lot of like good stuff like and a lot of good in that like interactions, and there were a lot of like photos to take. So my expectations before the day were quite nervous, and to be honest, that's normal. I really, really do want to like, hammer that point home that that's okay to be nervous. Toilet planning. So this is the sort of comedy section of this podcast episode, and to be honest, I really did just want to add this section to sort of like lighten this up, and to be honest, to make you guys laugh because well, it must have been the day before the graduation. Me and my family were talking, and we realised something quite important. So the graduation ceremony goes on for about 90 minutes, but then there's a problem. People in the audience, and at the time we didn't think students could, they didn't think we could go for the toilet. And the problem with that is that because everything would be so busy because you're preparing before, like you're getting your gown and everything, and you'll be drinking, you really didn't want to have to go to the toilet too much because even outside Canterbury Cathedral, where the bar was and where we were all getting ready, I didn't actually know where the toilets were they rough like that bit. So that was actually quite bad. But so there was actually a lot of toilet planning. Like we all made sure that we had a drink when we got up, but then we really did try to limit our drinking. So that might be a minor tip for the parents and whoever your guests are. But if you're a student, drink as much you want, honestly, because you actually can go for the toilet during your ceremony because it's really carefully done. Like you might have to wait a little bit, depending on how far away you are from getting your name called. But it's really like good though, and like to be honest, you've actually got nothing to worry about from the toilet side. And the really fun bit is that you can actually just rub it in your parents' faces. How did the day work? So I've already spoken quite a lot about the reception, and I've also mentioned the photos bit on Monday's podcast episode. but I really do want to add in like a bit more like detail though. So as I mentioned like before though, um, the reception is basically where you go beforehand and have speeches and you get to meet everyone again before the ceremony. Now, do not do what my family did because in the information pack we got, which was the longest bit, we didn't really know what the word conjugation meant. Of course, we know what it means in the religious context and everything. When it comes to university, we actually had no idea. So, and to be honest, this information pack we got really did sound like everything. Like it included the reception times and other bits. Then we realised it really didn't because we went to the ceremonies first though, and then thankfully we realised before we actually spoke to anyone that we were actually in the wrong place because this was not where the reception was happening. Thankfully, Westgate Hall, which is where it was happening, wasn't actually that far away. So we took a few like wrong turns though, but we did actually get there. So a massive like tip though, when it comes to university graduation, if you see the words conjugation, it's talking about the ceremony. And then the funny thing about the actual information booklet was that the word ceremony wasn't really mentioned. It was only conjugation. I don't know why they call a university ceremony a conjugation, but it was a bit of like fun though, and I laughed about it like a few times. So another tip I would absolutely give about the day is that definitely just take as many photos as you can, because this is sort of like the last time you're going to be seeing a bunch of people though, and this sort of last time that you're going to see the friends that you really really like, but you might not be that close to, or the friends that you really care about, but you sort of know after you go to university you aren't really going to bother too much about staying in contact overly, or you're not going to make the effort to go and see them in person. Granted, sometimes that's actually impossible. Like some of my friends, they're international students and they come from really quite far away countries. So seeing them in person would basically be impossible, or it would break my bank account. Something that I really, even though I love them basically, I am not going to do that at all. My bank account's my bank account. So, but that's definitely my massive tip though. Just take a tons of like photos, and then also talking about like the professional photos. To be honest, the professional photos they're just sort of there. No one actually talks about them like, again, so I actually want to talk about them. So the professional photos are really really good because if you're in the UK, then you might get a kick out of this. So the company that normally actually does the school photographs that you did when basically ever since you were in year one, called the Tempest, they're actually the same people that do your university photographs. So basically, you cannot get rid of this company, but they are really, really good, and I like them. So, going back to actually like useful stuff, is that when it comes to your professional photographs, actually just like take your parents, take your partner, and actually like get in the queue because then you can like have your graduation photos done. And even though I actually went by myself because we didn't realise that you really could have one like with the parents, but I still had tons of other like really nice photos like with my parents anyway. Well, I did see tons of other like couples and their parents did, and the photos that did like turn out nice. But something that's really nice about the photos is that when you actually get your certificate, you actually get a photo taken. So I had a photo like of me actually shaking my hand and actually getting my certificate from the chancellor. So that's always nice. So that was a nice surprise. The ceremony itself. So moving on to the actual psychology graduation, the way how the like ceremony works is that after you like get checked in, you're basically given a number, and because this number is the exact same order as the university certificates are done, and the order that your name is read out in. So it's really important that you are in this order. And at this point, everyone's nervous. Everyone is starting to feel concerned and sort of like stressed but really excited about it at the same time. I wasn't at this point in a time, so we all lined up. But the problem with having your name beginning with W, as in your surname, is you realise just how far away you are from the front. And the funny thing about the university ceremony is after people have clapped the first 20 people, you could actually hear the difference in their enthusiasm because the first 20 people, everyone's really excited, everyone's really happy. Then after the first 20, it's like, yep, we're just clapping for the sake of it now. We're just clapping to be nice. So it really is important that you actually do get excited and you do sort of like clap. Like if someone that you know is getting your award, then give it a bit of extra oomph and really, really trying to clap. It's what I did a few times, but that sort of drop is actually quite funny. And then I will absolutely admit that the only time I did get nervous or my heart did start pounding was I was actually entering the queue to actually get my certificate because what happens is that you're all like sitting down until where your section is actually like called up and then you're putting like a line in your order and then you actually like go off and you actually wait for your name to be called. Then you will go to the chancellor, like shake his hand, and then you walk down the cathedral. So that was like really good though. But when I was only like 5 people away, my heart started pounding, and I really felt like I needed a toilet, like massive toilet, biggest toilet I've ever needed, and bang went the toilet plan in. Well, so my heart started pumping. Thankfully, my name was called, and then I went out. Everything was fine, and I didn't need a toilet anymore. So it was just like nerves. So yes, I like shook the chancellor's hand, walked down the cathedral, got my certificate, and then went back to my seat though, and that was really really good. So like the ceremony was a lot of fun, really nice. I had to actually see everyone like graduate and everyone get their reward. And then after graduates, like go out first, and then in our list like friendship groups, like we did the throwing of the mortarboard. But one thing I do want to mention about the mortarboard is that in the UK and at my university, you can buy it for £10. Now I did not want to keep my mortarboard. I just wanted to rent it. I just wanted to rent it for the day, then just go home, basically. But my parents really, really wanted my mortarboard, so they brought it, and now I'm stuck with my mortarboard for the rest of my life. And it's like I'm never gonna wear it again, obviously, because I'll just get a new one for my master's graduation. And it's sort of like I don't know why my parents wanted it, but they just did. Got to love them. And now I just need to secretly plot how the hell I'm going to get rid of this mortarboard when they go. So, my thoughts about my graduation and the future. So, I'm really, really happy that I've graduated. I have to admit, there were definitely some times where I did not think this was going to happen. And I've spoken about this a lot on the podcast, but for my academic writing in year 1 and 2, not being up to scratch, to the sheer amount of stress and concern I had about group projects in my first year. I did not think I was going to graduate. I seriously didn't. I didn't think I was even going to get into my master's. That caused a lot of stress, a lot of upset, and a lot of bad, really, really bad mental health that I have not had in years. And thankfully, I haven't had in good 2 years. Years though, because I got onto my placement year. I met the amazing Professor Amir. I cannot pronounce his surname, and I really, really, really should learn considering I've actually known this guy for 2 years and I'm actually working with him again next year. Yeah, so he's been great, really helped me with my academic writing, and his PhD students are wonderful. Absolutely cannot fault them. And I actually might try and have them on the podcast at some point because they're doing really interesting research. But anyway, though, that's a topic for the far, far future. So what I'm trying to say is that you might struggle at university. Believe me, you really, really might. But you can still graduate if you keep trying, learning, and if you keep trying improving. Your graduation will be a lot of fun. Like, I'm surprised how much fun I had at my graduation, considering I'm not the most emotional of people. Believe me. Yeah, like seriously, I was surprised how much fun I had because I thought I would be rather unemotional or rather unaffected by the day. And to be honest, I was for the most part until my actual graduation. But now I'm a postgrad. I'm really happy. I'm really excited for the future. And as I actually said on my social media post, considering how much my university experience has given me, not only as a person, but as a fiction author, because I've done university romances, fantasy, and I've done mysteries based on my university experiences. I really am looking forward to my future, like as a master's student, and everything else beyond that, because that's what my university experience has given me is my undergrad. So I really am looking forward to seeing what can my masters give me. So I really am happy about the future. I'm really happy that I graduated. And if you have graduated, I think you can back me up with everything that I've said. And if you haven't graduated, then you've got something great to look forward to. So I really hope that you enjoyed today's episode and you got something out of it. I know that I have because, to be honest, I did not know where this podcast episode was going. I just wrote down my 5 points and I said, right, let's do a podcast episode on it. And I do admit, if you're still listening, then I'm really impressed and you are amazing because I would not have listened through some of that, especially some of the nitty gritty bits. But I'm really happy that you did. So massive, massive thank you. You are amazing. And if you know someone who would enjoy today's episode, then please share it with them. I'm always really grateful when you wonderful people help spread the word about the podcast. And if you wanted to learn more, then definitely check out How Does University Work, available in all of the usual places. And if you wanted to become a patron of the show, definitely check out patreon.com/The Psychology Word Podcast. So have a great day, everyone, and I'll see you next time. Thanks for listening today. I hope you found it helpful. Please remember to like the video and subscribe to the YouTube channel and follow the podcast on your favourite podcast app. And if you wanted to learn more, then please check out the backlist of the podcast episodes or my books at conwhiteley.net. So have a great day and I'll see you next time.